So how about we move on to our topic of the week. This is a story that is kind of funny. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people in the chat room have no idea about this at all. It's one of those. It's like a war that's raging that nobody knows about if you're not really kind of ingrained into the internet space and stuff like that. But some of you guys might be seeing a little hashtag going around a lot lately, trending on Twitter. It's called Gamergate. And it started as something that is completely different from what it turned into. But I feel like we have to kind of give a little bit of an origin story on this. Something that's been going on for the last couple weeks. It all started off, why don't you talk about this part, Mike, with the Zoe Quinn controversy. How that all started.
I mean, it started before that.
That was the impetus, I feel like, for
that was like when it first, I feel like that's, the fire's been being built.
Yes.
There's definitely been stuff thrown into, getting ready and everything like that.
A lot of fire built around Anita Sarkeesian.
Right, and that was the original spark. Zoe Quinn, I don't even know.
I think it's Zoe, I think.
Is it Zoe, actually? She made a game called Depression Quest, and it was actually a pretty decent game. The people that played it enjoyed it. They said that it brought out, a lot of truth about depression and, how, they got over it. She suffered from depression herself.
The game wasn't without controversy, though. Even the game itself, a lot of people did not want it to show up on Steam. Right. As far as like the what's it called, the green something Steam green light, I think is what it's called, where they search for a game to put on there. A lot of people didn't want Depression Quest to be chosen because they don't think it's a game.
Right.
It's a text adventure, which I think is still a game, but some people don't agree with that.
Right.
So there was already a little bit of controversy around the game before what happened
afterwards. And let's flash forward a little bit. Her douchebag of an ex-boyfriend decides to blow her shit up and basically call her out for being a whore, slut, whatever, sleeping around in the industry to get publicity for her game and getting good review scores and actually getting the game made. And it causes this whole big controversy saying that that's what women are in the gaming world. That and it brought all this anti-feminist or anti-women women bashing out and a lot of this douche culture.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna give it the name
that's one side of it, and that's the side that I think we all kind of hate right now. The side that actually might be a good thing is the kind of war against journalism, gaming journalism, journalistic integrity, because by this happening, by it coming out that she had slept, I hate talking about this, but she had slept with 5 people within the journalistic area, one of them being from Kotaku, supposedly. Because of that, it kind of reignited the idea that gaming journalism specifically might be corrupt. We've talked about this a lot before. There's no real proof for it besides the GameSpot event, but the idea potentially that there's money exchanging hands, now the idea potentially that sexual favors are being done in exchange for higher review scores, stuff like that, for attention on sites for something like Depression Quest. Because of that, it just kind of reignited that really hardcore, and it started this whole idea of Gamergate, which actually isn't a terrible thing in the beginning. It was just the idea that people want game journalism to be held to the same standards as any other area of journalism. Now, the issue here, and Mark, we can talk about this especially as well, we were talking about it earlier, the idea is that gaming journalism isn't the same exactly as other journalism because it's gaming enthusiasts. It's enthusiast press. We are gaming enthusiasts. In a lot of ways, we're no different than what we would call gaming journalists.
I think at the heart of things, nobody is really different than what gaming journalists are. Yes. And I think that's maybe one of the issues a lot of people have. They have this higher standard they want to hold them to and say, like, okay, well, we want our news to be unbiased. And we're really tired of just being pushed slop. I mean, you have people giving great reviews to games that are just unfinished.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because you can see, like, okay, well, clearly this studio or whatever has kind of like rubbed shoulders a little bit with other people, and it's like, hey, well, yeah, we'll give your game a 9 out of 10, sure.
And
it sometimes like shit and it's unfinished, and we'll say that, but we'll still give you the 9 out of 10.
Sometimes there's not anything wrong with that. It's just because a lot of journalistic sites will do that. The difference is there's usually disclosure, and that's what there's like 3 parts to Gamergate that it kind of started up. And one of them was that if there is a relationship there between the journalist and whoever is a part of maybe this developer, that kind of thing should be disclosed. We should probably know about that there was some type of relationship between these 2 people. That's something that would help the journalistic integrity of any site. And that's what's kind of good about this is, let's take Kotaku, for example. They have changed their standards. They have now said that they are now no longer allowing journalists to donate to Patreon, which is a site to help developers. And if it were to happen for means of helping to get exclusive content from that developer, it will be disclosed in the article or review. That way, there's no money exchanged, even through donations, without the reader knowing.
Yeah.
Now, but still, like, I was talking about this earlier as well, and I'm sorry if I'm incorrect on this one, guys, but I think, for instance, let's take like a Colin Moriarty, who you guys know I love. I love Colin Moriarty. But as far as I know, he does not have a degree in journalism. He has a degree in American history, and I think one other thing as well, but he just loves games, as we love games. If we could write about games, and we lived on the West Coast, I think maybe me and you maybe would. You know what I mean? We might jump into that space. It's a little more difficult on the East Coast. And that's the big difference is they don't even really know what they're doing, these gaming enthusiasts, because they never took journalism ethics and stuff like that. But the editor-in-chief, whether it be from Kotaku or whatnot, they're the ones that have to kind of set the standards, and Kotaku, Guardian, Escapist, those three specifically in the last day or two have come out and said we are changing our standards. That is the great side of Gamergate. That's how it started. Now, the bad part of Gamergate. What it turned into, something that I was touching on earlier with those terrible tweets, the harassment towards Anita Sarkeesian, who I said is just trying to, for the most part, inform. Now, a lot of people will not agree, I'm going to let you guys take the floor on this one, with Anita Sarkeesian, but she's trying to display tropes against women in video games. Go ahead. Well,
there's a difference between explaining and showing off the tropes and being...
Let Mike start. Who wants to start?
No, you go ahead, because I almost went off, and...
I think...
Mark, you start.
I think the issue that some people have with Anita is that it seems like she's picking and choosing information to push a very clear political agenda, and not so much like giving a crap about games. She's wasn't a part of like this atmosphere or I don't like saying community, because gaming has really grown bigger than a community. When
to people that know outside of the community, but that's the thing is that as our title of the video says, what is a gamer, and we're going to get into it. A lot of people think it is this community, and it's not. We'll get into that.
My cousin's husband is like 32, plays games, and my niece who's 11 years old plays the same games. This isn't a community, guys. This is like a
lot broader than that. Yeah.
But anyway, I think the bigger issue with Anita is that some people find with her is that she's picking and choosing information to push an agenda that she wants to suit, and that isn't necessarily as monumental as like it's being made out to be. I think. Is there some gross generalization in video gaming? Yes. There is gross generalization in anything that's written really freaking poorly. I think the only big issue here is that you see a lot of really poorly written games sell big sometimes, and they make a lot of money, and they get a huge audience, but that doesn't make them any better at writing. You have a shitty female written character, you can have one-dimensional male characters too. It's not so much a problem with gaming or game developers or game consumers, it's a problem with entertainment media as a whole. I mean, you have shallow music and shallow movies that giant blockbuster hits. It happens. I think, like I said, I think that it's something being manufactured to push a specific agenda, and not necessarily the other way around, that something needs to be forced to happen, at least to this scale.
Now, most people, you're probably, a lot of people might be seeing it online right now, being thrown around everywhere, SJW. If you guys don't know what that means, it's considered a social justice warrior. And that isn't actually a good thing. There's people that are trying to make change for good reasons, and then there are people that are using certain events like Gamergate to push an agenda.
All right, stop. Well, Lonely, get the fuck out of the room. I'm tired of this shit. This is the type of people that I don't want in the fucking gaming community, gamer friendship. You are the biggest piece of shit and the biggest bullshit to the agenda that's happening. No, seriously.
No,
like, fuck you.
I haven't been reading him.
He just said they want to put fags in games. Dude, you're a fucking dick wipe. Like, go the fuck to hell. I really wish your mom aborted you. You're a piece of shit. Seriously.
That's
No, that's
too
it's
much.
getting
That's
ridiculous.
That's a little too much.
No,
That's enough.
because that's what's going on everywhere.
That's the type of people that are ruining
That's what's
Gamergate. I agree.
Right. We
should talk about that. Let's get into that a little bit because
This is why.
these are the kind of people that have been attacking someone. Like Mark made legitimate concerns with Anita's agenda or what she's doing, and then there's people like that who go on Twitter and harass and degrade women or someone of a different sexual preference. Doesn't matter. That's still harassment, and it's terrible, and it's something that a lot of people do behind their computer screen, thinking that it doesn't make a difference and it doesn't hurt people. But you know what? And I talked about this before. There's a whole other side of this. Phil Fish, being hacked and leaving the industry. Let's say Phil Fish were to commit suicide. How would that change our industry? It would destroy it. We would suddenly be the bullies that bullied a developer who made games for us into killing himself. Like, that is something that could potentially happen because of the cyberbullying and harassment that we see of someone like Anita. And obviously, when Mark is talking about what he might disagree with Anita, he would never in a million years go on Twitter and say anything like what we've been seeing said to Anita Sarkeesian, to Zoe Quinn, to Jen Frank, who has also left the gaming journalism because of an article that she wrote and then was commented on so heavily, harassed so heavily, that someone that's been in the industry for 10 years said, no, I'm out. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing Gamergate, which is supposed to be about inclusion, is becoming about exclusion. It's actually pushing people out of the industry.
Right.
And it's terrible. It started off as really a good idea. It really did. And people like that are vocal minorities are just so freaking loud that they can actually change it. They actually made it worse. They made it into a bad thing. And it sucks. What kind of comments are we getting right now that are actually decent comments? Anything?
No, it's.
I mean, we could keep talking about this. I'm just curious.
No, I mean, it seems to be that we should take like a calmer approach to this thing, and you don't need the negativity. You don't need this BS, and you don't need to start attacking people because you disagree with them or like I guess think they're pushing something, and then you push this other thing, and it's so many people, it's so many like political things getting wrapped up and tied into something that doesn't need to be happening right now.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, you were about to say something.
Here's my biggest issue with all this. This is an industry for games.
Okay.
Which are supposed to be about, it originally started, they're supposed to be about just having fun. Alright, let's go back to the original video games. It's supposed to be all about having fun. Now it's supposed to be about having fun, interacting with people, telling great stories. Where the hell did politics come in? I don't, I'm getting, so
I
as
think
far as
the politics are the growing pains.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with Anita Sarkeesian's point in that, women in video games and in media in general, look at the tropes and what's the rule that they have in movies for two women talking in a room to each other without a male figure?
I don't know exactly, but
you know what I'm talking about,
I know
right?
what you're talking about.
And it's the same thing for video games, so I get it. But the problem is, it was portrayed in a poor way, and a lot of her stuff is, and I don't agree with her personally.
Okay.
I don't agree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death your right to say it.
Okay.
Right? I'll take that stance with it. What I have a problem
Thank you for the follow, by the way.
What I have a problem with is the fact that we have to, we are getting generalized as a group, and now we're getting, because we play video games, we enjoy it, and because these guys are attacking somebody who is attacking video games in their mindset. I don't feel that way, but, according to them, she's attacking video games. We are getting grouped in with them. They could play 2 games, and that's it. These could be guys that just have only played Team Fortress 2, or only guys that are, and they're getting classified as gamers. And so the term is dying, and it's a term I enjoyed, but I don't want to be classified in that group in the general public, which is going to be looked at as a hate group.
Thank you for the friend request, score the 1.
Gamers are going to be looked at as
that's a whole other side to this I think we should get into now. So our title says, what does it mean to be a gamer? And this is kind of a side to it that I think is more of an obvious argument, and I think most people obviously understand. But as you were saying, I think for gamers like us, people like watching the show right now, I think when you ask them what is a gamer, and guys, please comment in the chat room what you think that word means. You would say somebody that plays this many hours of games today, someone that's enthusiastic about the industry, keeps up with the news. It's more of a culture. But if I went upstairs and asked my mom what a gamer is, she would say somebody who plays games. A reader, somebody that reads, it's in the most general form of the word. A gamer is somebody that plays games. Somebody that plays 1 hour of Angry Birds a week is the same as somebody that plays 10 hours of Destiny in 3 days.
But they're not.
But they're not. I know, but they're not. But that's the thing is people, the gamers especially, and I'm generalizing a little bit here, obviously, guys, they're very protective of their culture. Mm-hmm. They don't. If they're criticized as a group, it's just they can't stand it, and that's what happened. Is because of these terrible people, like the one guy that was in here. Thank you for the follow. Doing this harassment and stuff like this. Suddenly, games journalists all kind of it almost seemed like they banded together, and this might be purely coincidental, but suddenly a dozen articles all came out at the same time about the death of the gamer. And it was like, wow, this is crazy coincidence that suddenly all these different sites all are bashing gamers at the same time. How is this happening all at once? And again, we don't know if this is coincidental or not, but it kind of brings up this whole other war, again, between the games journalists and gamers that I don't think we really like each other much anymore. Games journalists don't like us, and we don't really like them much either anymore.
Well, it's an issue of trust.
Exactly.
We don't trust the people that are giving us this news because it's all like, okay, well, they're hyping this stuff up again. Well, what are the problems with it? And the thing is, games are coming out with problems because studios are forcing them through too quickly, and journalists aren't reporting about the problems. Or even, it's not so much that they aren't reporting the problems, they aren't, like, acknowledging the problems. And which is, I think, the bigger issue. If they were at least acknowledging that, yeah, there's some issues going on here, guys, maybe this is questionable. Like, Battlefield 4 had some serious issues with servers.
Yeah.
And it still does. They're only rolling out a patch to fix and like redo the game entirely like a couple weeks from now. Mm-hmm. It's taken, when did it come out? Last year?
Almost.
Yeah.
It's taken them a year to fix this stuff.
Yep.
Well, that's kind of a problem. And why wasn't this stuff acknowledged earlier?
Let me just say one thing before I saw you were ready to talk too much. The other thing is, the reason I feel like games journalists are starting to dislike us as a whole, unfortunately, is because as hard as they try probably to realize that most of us are fine with them, it's really hard to ignore that vocal minority that probably takes up 90% of their comments with just hate and just terrible, terrible stuff. It's like, how can you be a journalist? I know you can just not read the comments at all, but I've never been in the position. I know that's got to be tough. It's got to be tough to just ignore this stuff, and it has to.
It is tough. Look what we get in the chat.
Exactly.
That's tough.
It drains on you. I know, and we don't get near as much stuff as they do. But even us in the chat room, we get called all different kinds of stuff.
Look at the whole thing with Colin and the Order 1886.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the bash he was getting for that and stuff.
You know, and here's my problem is that we've become way too vocal. Almost as a group. Like originally, I enjoy that we have this social interaction. Mm-hmm. We've reached out with the internet has brought us closer as gamers. We can actually voice what we like, what we didn't like, and our voices are actually sometimes being heard. The problem is now we're a whiny culture. It's more of a whiny subculture.
To generalize, obviously.
Right. It's a whiny. The people in
minority.
Right, and you're right.
Culture.
You're right. And we're being now generalized by it. Here's my thing. At the end of the day, I don't consider anybody that spends more time bitching on their computer than they are playing games as a gamer. And if you do,
but that's the thing. That's what the culture has become, and that's what's kind of
and that's the problem
to the journalists and stuff like that. Let me touch on what Mark was saying a little bit earlier about us wanting the truth from gamers. We don't want just press releases and whatnot. And I think we have moved away from that a little bit. If you went to gaming sites 5 years ago, that's all you saw. You just saw a press release rewritten on a site. And what we finally are starting to get into is op-ed pieces. We're getting into journalists trying to talk about stuff.
Mayweather.
And as much as we hated it, and it turned out to probably be false, the whole Amy Hennig thing. That was a journalist taking a risk, writing a story that wasn't really supposed to be written, and honestly, it's not a bad thing. If you were right about it, it probably would have been a great thing. But the problem is, it seems like he probably wasn't right about it. But that's the thing, is you can't have it both ways. Right. These people, they want truth, they want this kind of stuff, but then when we get people like Anita Sarkeesian, or even something to a lesser effect like Mitch Dyer writing a story about Naughty Dog and stuff like that. People bitch because they hate their industry being criticized. That's the thing, guys. If you want this medium to grow and to mature into something on the level of film and music and literature, this is what needs to happen. This politics, this Gamergate, these are the growing pains. We are 30 years within the video game industry, and we are finally getting to the point where we might be taken seriously. And the problem is that you guys are ruining it. Not you guys. People like that one guy earlier that took something like Gamergate and turned it into making us look bad. We were getting close to something good, and people like that are ruining it.
Right, and there was actually there's still a few people in here. There's there's so much hate bashing.
Yeah,
people find trolling to be so entertaining, and they don't realize that it just makes you look sad, especially with us. And I'm not saying we're famous, popular, whatever. No. We have people that enjoy watching our show. As soon as we go live, if we actually show up on PlayStation, we get almost probably about 80 people within minutes.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously people watch our show, and we have the most loyal fans in there. And look, shut up, you're an annoying take. I don't know, whatever.
No, ignore that.
No.
He's just
I'm making it a point.
Okay. Yeah.
Jeez, let me talk for once. The issue is we have all these people in the room giving spreading all this hate. And why are you even here? Why are you on the message boards for a game that you obviously didn't like?
What do you get out of this?
What are you getting from this? They're saying,
especially when we ignore you, because that's what we typically do. 99% of the time, we just ignore people that do that because we know that you're feeding the trolls as they go.
And that's how we try to do it.
What are you getting out of this? Why do you go on someone's Twitter and bash them to the point where they leave their home for fear of their life? Does that make you feel good inside? What is that doing to help you in life? It's very confusing for us.
At the end of the day, we need to wrap this up because now it's getting more negative. It's we're getting to a point where now we're just.
I kind of wanted to hear from Kristen a little bit.
Okay, no, I mean Kristen has a voice on this, but I didn't know
because she sees this kind of crap and what do you think of gamers? Sorry, what do you think of gamers? From seeing what you've seen here, do you look at us as this kind of immature, angry white bigot because of the constant stuff you see?
No, because everyone is like that anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you do see it in everything. That's the internet. I mean, and it sucks.
Not even the internet. I mean, you see people with their stupid protesting signs for XYZ all over the place. It's not just the internet.
No, you're right. It is not just the internet. It's just for some reason. And it's a little more prevalent, I think, in the gaming industry, the gaming culture. We just are especially. We have a bigger group of immature jackasses, I guess, is what you could say. We have a little bit more of them, and I don't know what that stems from exactly, but it needs to change. And the thing is, guys, sorry, I think you're going to say something. I can hear you.
You can hear me moving my lips?
Yeah.
No, when it comes down to it, I know it's very simple to think this way, but people are just psychotic.
Some are.
You can't get through to them no matter what. Like some people, there's just nothing you can do. That's just how they are.
They're sociopaths.
You can't change their mind. For whatever reason, they were made that way.
Apathetic.
And I just feel like they're bored. But when you think about it, literally, if you go through the existence of the Earth and how long we are actually here, it's what is the point? Go do something fun.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's stupid. It's just all stupid.
And I have to assume that for some reason this is fun for them, but that makes me think why.
You're here on this earth for a split second. Do something productive. That's just how I feel.
That's good. Good words right there.
I think as video games mature, just as the group who's playing it, we have younger people coming up and they're seeing and they're going to experience this shift, I guess.
When I was 12 years
dynamics.
old, I would never.
And it's all right, well. This stuff isn't as acceptable as it used to be, and so as we see these people growing up in it, it's gonna phase out. It will phase out. I mean, we'll always have remnants of it because people can say anything that they want whenever they're behind an avatar or a screen name, and that's just. I think that'll always be the case, but it's not going to be at the level that it is now. I hope not. Anyway,
hold on one second. Mike was next.
I was just gonna say we could have a kid that is a hater.
No, you're right. You could have a bad apple.
Danny could be a bad apple.
But she wouldn't. She's too. That's the thing. And it's all about. I mean, it's a lot about parenting. It's about what they're exposed to.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can tell when you're
Thank you for the two
Captain Cam and somebody else before
300.
that.
I'll do Pterodactyl Andrew after we're done with this really somber subject.
I mean, Anyway, we're getting way off topic. At the end of the day, I mean, we need to wrap this up because this is getting very negative. But I mean, we made our points.
Yeah, I want to end it off on a good note.
No, do it.
What I want to say to close this on the best note possible is what Gamergate started out as is simply as us as gamers, people that love this industry, that are very enthusiastic, gaming enthusiasts, just wanting the enthusiast press to also take it very seriously, to take on journalistic standards that you see in all other forms of medium that will help our medium grow and mature into something that we've always wanted it to be. We've always wanted it to be compared to film and books, and in a lot of ways we think it already is. We look at something like The Last of Us and we're like, this is like a film-worthy story right here. The voice acting, everything about it is really up there with some of the better films out in the industry right now. And those kind of things we need to keep in mind and just kind of ignore all the trash on the side. And if you really do have a problem with journalistic integrity, if you think that we're not going to help things that what Kotaku is doing right now by changing their standards, if that's not enough, go out and do it yourself. Create a site, make your own journalistic standards, and be the person who starts this. Start treating gaming and journalism in the way that you want it to be treated, because no matter what, there's only so much that we can do. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We can boycott, but that might be the worst thing we could possibly do if it's for the wrong reasons. We might be boycotting a site that actually is not, corrupt, and you might be leaving one that is. So it's tough to pick and choose in that regard. So all I can say really is stay optimistic, stay friendly, love each other, love your fellow gamer, because we're a community when you look at us, the gamer. We're a community, and we need to treat each other with respect.
Yeah. I just feel like life is short, just be nice. As my screen name says, Kristen says, be